My name is Angeline Galapago, and our topic is Chapter 6 Business Strategy, Differentiation, Cost Leadership, and Integration. My topic was all about 6.6 The Dynamics of Competitive Positioning. The dynamics of competitive positioning. Companies that adopt one of the generic business strategies, differentiation, or cost leadership successfully are more likely to get a competitive advantage. In order to do so, companies are attempting to achieve the so-called productivity frontier. Productivity frontier, which is the value-cost relation that captures the result of performing best practices at any given time. The productivity frontier is reached by companies that are effective and efficient, others are left behind. Furthermore, at any one time, the productivity frontier indicates a location of best-in-class strategic position the organization might take in terms of value creation and low cost. The business plan of a company decides which strategic position it aspires to along the way the productivity frontier. Strategic positioning need to change over time. Strategic position, however, are not fixed but can and need to change as the environment changes. As a result, manager must be aware of the dynamics of the market. Competitive positioning. House a firm's position evolves over time as a result of strategy. At a particular point in time, reaching the productivity frontier enhances the chances of gaining a competitive advantage. In contrast, falling behind the productivity frontier puts you at a competitive disadvantage. Changes in the industry environment, on the other hand, allow businesses to adapt, make more important position for yourself, and turn your performance into competitive advantage. PC assembler need to move to the tablets. PC industry. 2010, Apple was the differentiator, HP and Lenovo were stuck in the middle. 2013, Lenovo was a differentiator in laptops and desktop. HP still has a problem with software transformation. Apple seemed to be moving into lower-end products and toward an integration strategy. This was explained in detail in Exhibit 6.11 in order to fully comprehend the dynamics of competitive positioning in the computer market, as well as the competitive strategies of Apple, Lenovo, Dell, and HP. Exhibit 6.11 The Dynamics of Competitive Positioning in the PC Industry, Apple, Lenovo, HP, and Dell. To illustrate the concept of the competitive dynamic, the 350 billion PC industry between 2010 and 13. 47 computer hardware has historically been a highly competitive industry. Many of the components are commodities. Until 2010, the industry grew by double digits every year. However, the business has been in decline since 2010. In recent years, there has been a significant reduction in sales. Part of the drop in demand is due to a continuing substitution effect, which consumers going for tablet, computers, or smartphone, like I said just a while ago, with larger screen to be used for mobile computing rather than laptops or desktop computers. By 2013, the PC business had become extremely competitive due to dwindling demand and shrinking market size. We visualize the changes competing posture of Apple, Dell, HP, and Lenovo through time to highlight the dynamics of competitive positioning. These are PC industry primary competitors, with a combined market share of almost $500 million. The horizontal axis in Exhibit 6.11 represents best practices in cost leadership, whereas the vertical axis represents best practices in differentiation at any given period. Forte is taking a cost-cutting approach as well as a cost leadership and differentiator. The organization seeking an integration plan stake out a spot in the best practice frontier course. The dotted lines show the productivity frontier in 2010. It indicates a set of best possible strategies position a firm could occupy on the productivity frontier at the at that point in time. Take a look at Exhibit 6.11 for an example. Apple has carved out a solid strategic position as a differentiator. At any at the time, the business level differentiator approach was best in class. Apple transformed a commodity into a differentiated product by combining great hardware and software integration capabilities with excellent marketing. Consumers were willing to pay a higher amount for a better user experience. By 2010, consumer preferences in the United States had changed dramatically. The PC market had moved on to value-added capabilities like seamless integration of PCs with mobile device, MP3 players, digital cameras, video, and so on, leaving the other competitor HP, Lenovo, and Dell behind of the productivity frontier. Apple's successful series of mobile device breaking throughs, iPad, iPhone, and iPair with the Apple Watch. Consumer sought a single central location to manage all of their mobile device and content. So the iTunes Store boosted demand for Apple's Macs. Apple was able to reach the productivity frontier because it is well thought out and well executed strategy. HP, Dell, and Lenovo were hit harder by the 2008 and 2009 recession than Apple because of their heavier concentration on corporate IT departments rather than the Apple. HP and Lenovo is particularly were caught in the middle in 2010. When compared to Apple and Dell, they were unable to provide either value creating differentiation of cheap costs and hence found themselves in key position below the productivity frontier. In 2002, HP paid $25 billion for Compaq. The goal of this merger, which formed the world's largest computer PC manufacturer, was to establish a strategic position as an integrator, giving high-tech and cheap costs. But by 2010, HP had failed to resolve the difficult cost differentiation trade-off. HP was unable to break through the next level of production. HP's board of directors replaced CEO Mark Hurd with Leo Apotheker, partly due to an ethics problem. In 2010, Apotheker was replaced by Meg Hitman, who took over in 2011. In 2010, Lenovo, a Chinese technology company, was still integrating IBM's Young PC division, which it had purchased in 2005. The company did not yet have a clear strategic profile as a differentiator or a low-cost leader at the same time. It also lacked of significant footprint outside of China and their Asian markets. Lenovo was at the competitive disadvantage in 2010 because it has lagging behind on the productivity frontier. Dell has a solid strategic position on the productivity frontier for almost a decade. Having once been the leader in low-cost PCs, Dell performance began to deteriorate in 2006. Though Michael Dell, the company's founder, came out of retirement in 2007 to take over as CEO, Dell attempted to reposition the company by shifting its focus to IT service and creating more difference in the PCs in order to move beyond gray boxes. Nike has commissioned a designer of create with futuristic design for their product offers. Dell paid $3.9 billion for Parrot System, an IT service company, in 2009 to broaden its appeal by adding service and to better compete with HP, which paid $13 billion for EDS, other IT service provider, in 2008. 50 by 2010, however, Dell's strategic position as a cost leader appeared to be less useful than it had been in the early 2000s because differentiation had become one of the most important competitive success determinants. Dell has fallen behind market demand, which to additional value-added service in the PCs such as seamless connectivity between computers and mobile devices, which Dell was unable to provide. Taking other in 2010, Apple enjoyed a clear competitive advantage over Dell, HP, and Lenovo. Fast forward to 2013, the competitive dynamics now appear to be substantially different. Apple has been battling to remain its decade of innovation home runs. The iPad, iTunes Store, iPhone, and iPads that began in 2001. Apple released lower-cost version of its products such as iPad in an attempt to grab more of the low-end market. Miniature in 2012, it shifted its strategy focus on integration but lagged behind on the productivity frontier as demand of its Macs decreased by about 10% annually. HP continued to pursue an integration strategy over considering a 2011 intention to spin out its PC business. It does, however, continue to have serious issues. HP prolonged competitive disadvantage stem from a $11 billion acquisition of software business Autonomy, which resulted in a $9 billion write-down, and its ongoing struggle to turn itself into a software and service company. 51 infarct as a result of HP computer hardware demand has declined by as much as 25% each year due to the inability to clearly articulate a commercial and corporate plan in 2013, HP continued to underperform and fall short of its productivity frontier. Dell is also having trouble shifting its strategy position, moving away from a well-executed cost leadership approach and toward more integration as well as a larger concentration on its IT services. The Dell cost leadership strategy became less beneficial as the consumer preferences shifted toward more value-added differentiation. Dell changed its strategy position as a result of this. Dell's attempt at strategic positioning, on the other hand, demonstrate how difficult it is to reconcile the trade-offs that come with chasing low cost and distinct at the same time. Dell had at the competitive disadvantage since 2013. The demand for its computer had decreased by as much as 15% per year. As a result, their market share in the PC sector has decreased from 25% to the few years ago of 11% in 2013. Lenovo had carved out the clearless strategy profile by 2013. It followed through on the strategy decision to focus on higher end of the market and by producing high performance laptops and desktop. Lenovo has risen at the forefront of productivity, established itself as a distinct differentiator. During this time, PC demand was in the free collapse and all competitors except Lenovo has considerable market share. Lenovo was only PC maker whose demand did not fall despite to the industry shrinking by double digits. Indeed, Lenovo holds 40% market share in high-end PC over $900 that run a Windows operating system, which are the vast majority of PC in the high-end category. Lenovo's decision to carve out a clear strategic profile by following a well-crafted and executed differentiation strategy reward the company with a competitive advantage. 6.7 Implication for the strategies. Well-formulated and implemented strategies enhance chances of superior performance. Gaining a competitive advantage requires strategic position, generic business strategy, low cost or differentiation that are well-formulated and implemented improve the firm's chances of achieving outstanding performance. Making decisions necessary significant trade-off. Integration strategy successfully only if as innovation that reconcile the trade-off such as Toyota Icon manufacturer approach in 1980s to 1990s. In extraordinary cases, a few outstanding organizations may be able to resolve the enormous trade-off between creating value and cutting manufacturer costs by stimuli purchasing both business strategies. This integration in tactics are only successful if a company are rely on the invention that allows it to reconcile the previously outlined trade-off. For example, Toyota Lean manufacturer technique in the 1980s and 1990s before it became widely used. The goal is to stay on the productivity frontier. Given the dynamic nature of competitive positioning, business must constantly modify and improve their strategic posture over time. The goal is to stay ahead of the productivity frontier, which is defined by the best practices that is theoretically achievable at any given time, because innovation is shot as an important aspect of corporate strategy and competitive advantage.